Now, if you can see in here, there's my lock pin. You can see it's kind of moving. There, you see that pin in there? It's moving, so it's not very solid really. Now, the original location was forward, so if you pulled it this way, it is kind of stiff, but it will move. It moves because the locking kind of mechanism is this piece here, and this, as you pull this forward, this butts up against a kind of this piece here, which is attached to the focus rails. This piece has some spring in it, and so that will allow you to kind of move this. As you can see, it moves. So if you pull it forward this way, don't go crazy and put it all the way forward because you might break something, but just kind of give it a gentle push so it's nice and solid and doesn't move too much. And after you've done that, we'll have to make sure this or this back edge here, where the actual lens kind of panel will attach later, is 90 degrees or parallel to the film plane here. And to do that, we need a little square. Now, to align the front block here, we need to get a small square and we will butt it up on this bed and make sure that it's lined up, this back surface is lined up with the square. That's assuming that this bed is actually 90 degrees to this film plane. If it's not, then it's not going to be parallel, but I think it is, and so I'm working on that assumption. So we have it kind of lined up here, and this is slightly pushed forward, as I showed you a little bit earlier, and that kind of keeps this steady. You need to do this, otherwise you'll get slop in the end. So once it's there, you'll recall that the bushings for this pivot point here has a 3mm inner diameter. Now I have a 3mm drill, and that will basically sit into the bushings nicely and act as a drill guide there, and I will mark out the 2 pivot points. After that's done, I actually did this a little bit earlier, you can't see on this side, but this side I've enlarged the hole. I don't know if you can see, but you can see there's a kind of hole there, or a mark, and that will locate my channel for when I route. So I just have to get a fence on here, route down there, and I'll have a 4mm width channel centered on this point. And once I've done that, I can stick my rod in, epoxy it in, and it'll be okay. But yeah, make sure that when you locate this front pin here, that you have enough material at the back to actually screw or do whatever kind of attachment that you'll be planning. I did this once in a trial run, and I found out that I actually located this a bit too far back. So you want to be careful there. The location of this back pivot point is actually quite essential, or rather these 2 points. It's because if you locate it too far this way, towards the front, what will happen is this will end up sitting back here, like this, and you'll get this huge kind of block sticking out this way. That's not good, because what happens is when you finally fold this up, this will actually be sticking out, and hang on. What will happen is obviously it will be sitting in here, and it will be sticking up this way in the end, and that will actually interfere with your bellows. So try not to make it too kind of sticky out. Especially also you need to factor in that you will be attaching a lens panel on this end, which is 2mm thick aluminium. So yeah, try to plan for that. And so yeah, now I'll route this out, and I'll come back and show you the results. Now I routed out the channel, and as you can see, I've already mounted the rod in here, and I've placed a brass, the 3mm brass rod through the bushings and this pipe, and out the other side. And now this is nice and solid. After you've done this, you'll need the square, and just check that is actually, this back surface is actually nice and 90 degrees to the bed here. So now we have our base block done. We need to mark, we need to make this lens panel here where the lens will actually mount. But before we do that, we need to find out where to drill the hole. First of all, make this, I've got some 2mm aluminium plate. I just cut it down to size so it fits on this block. And so, yeah, it's 100mm tall from the back down here to the top, and it's for this block I made it 70, I think it's 3 or 2mm wide. It's slightly narrower than I actually need, which is a kind of a mistake on my end, but anyway, so I made this, well, temporary lens panel, and what I've done is I've temporarily stuck it onto this block using double-sided tape, and so it's stuck, and that allows me to mount it and kind of test the position. And on the body, I've mounted the bellows temporarily using double-sided tape. Again, it doesn't have to be like light tight or anything, it's just to hold it there so that it gives you a feeling of how much space you have for this panel, and if you'll overcompress the bellows, or if you'll have space basically. So it also, because you've got this hole here, it lets you position the lens hole nicely. But anyway, so I've mounted that on there, and my temporary lens panel here is on. So I'm going to mount it into the sliding base section here, and I will basically lock that all the way back into the body, like where it would normally be when it's finished. And I haven't actually secured this on the pivots. I've already done this, so I'm just kind of showing you this. And but anyway, for when you're doing this, you want to kind of assemble everything here as it will be in the final product, as it were. So lock your pins in, and fold it down, and you should have it in here. Also make sure to have these two metal caps in, because I think they actually interfere with the how far back this sliding thing can go. But anyway, it makes it closer to the final product, so everything's a bit more accurate, just in case. So yeah, line that in there and fold it up, and you will basically have your bellows compressed up against the panel, and you'll be able to see the position of where your lens should be. So after you've got to this stage, you just mark a hole, or some sort of mark, so that you know where to drill, and you open it back up and remove and yeah, you just drill the hole. And I've already done this, as I said, and this is what I got. So just for a kind of reference, the center of my hole here is from the bottom of the actual lens panel down here. It's 55mm up, and obviously centered left to right. So it's kind of just slightly over halfway, because this is 100mm. And yeah, that's where I found out where my hole had to be. So I've drilled that, and basically I'll just mount this, or you can paint it or whatever first, and then I'll just mount it onto the block using epoxy. You can use screws or whatever, it doesn't really matter, as long as it's solid. And that will be the finished standard.